When I woke up in the Gila RV park, I discovered the video that I worked so hard on was only 54% and had hours to go. So I ate a Pop-Tarts and orange juice that I got at Doc Campbell's the day before and packed up and headed out. The first step was a 3-mile road walk to the Gila Visitor Center. I checked it out for a bit and discovered that there was a trout that was only indigenous to the Gila River. Then it was a short walk to the trailhead. Right away, the river crossing started again. I immediately noted that since this was only the middle fork of the Gila River, it was considerably smaller. About a mile, I reached the Gila Hot Springs. A family was there enjoying the warm water. I changed into my camp shoes that I got in my resupply box and hiked up my pants and checked it out. I didn't go in all the way, but I checked all the pools. In the hot water, I saw a huge pollywog. The Middle Fork's canyon walls were more sheer and impressive. Although I'd seen the characteristic chewed-on trunks on the lower Gila, I hadn't seen any beaver dams until I got to this one on the Middle Fork. At one of the first crossings, I saw a big fish, and based on its colorations, I thought it might be the Gila River trout. The Middle Fork had low spots where water creeps in also, and of course, the frogs loved those. At this spot, I just had to sit down and admire the canyon walls for a few minutes. It seemed like every time I looked up the canyon, the walls had something to show me. Coming to the first big camp, I saw someone rigged up a swing. By the size of these tents, you could tell they weren't thru hikers. Just as I left the camp, I saw Titus. I met him at Doc Campbell's the day before. I met a group of hikers enjoying the Gila on a Saturday. The star of the group was Stella, their Australian cattle dog. Right after leaving Stella, this unattended dog flew by. Apparently, she wanted to play with Stella too. I got a good shot of the vulture overhead. It and its buddies were catching thermals, trying to get higher altitude. The quaking aspen next to the Jeffrey pines is quite the contrast. I saw there was another hot springs just off the trail, and this one was nice enough to convince me to get in. The hot springs had a guard chihuahua. A few times the trail went right through reeds. This rock formation was incredible. Vertical slabs just seemed to fall off at times and then lay about the canyon floor. As the day stretched into evening, I seemed to see the large fish at the crossings more often. I was determined to catch one on camera. I finally captured one on camera, but it was really quick. The wake of this one was much easier to see. Between the Big Bear connector and the Coop Mesa connector, the trail disappeared. I rarely saw a rock cairn. I was on my own. There was still plenty to see. Were these raccoon prints? Was I going to have to guard my food? I finally saw one of the mischievous dam builders. Right before I got into this awesome camp, I had a river crossing that was waist deep. Fortunately, the camp came with a drying rack. During the night, coyotes and turkeys chattered away. In the morning, I sparked up the fire again to finish drying my clothes and to accompany my breakfast. One last shot of the best campsite on the CDT so far. Since I was on a long section, I needed to crack out the solar panels to make sure my phone had charge all the way to Pie Town. Of course, you might ask yourself, why did I even bother to dry my pants and socks? At one point, the river filled the entire canyon floor. I came across lupine. The canyon became more and more narrow. Here's another spot where the river filled the canyon from side to side, but it was only a few inches deep. Around 11:30, I reached the Coop Canyon connector and the trail improved. The canyon became wider and shallower as I climbed up the plateau the river cut through. I saw a screech owl in the morning. I assumed it was a screech owl because it screeched right before it took off. I couldn't grab a shot. Here I saw an eagle at the edge of the river, but when I went to take a picture, it took off and flew behind these plants. I saw him. I did. I really did. Here I needed to cross the river, but there were back-to-back beaver dams that made it too deep. So I used one of the dams. At one point on the PCT, I saw robins one after another. I wonder if the CDT is going to do the same thing. These look like loons, but it didn't seem right, so I looked it up. I guess they're mergansers. This was the last crossing of the Gila. Just above here, it became the Gila Creek. After that, I climbed the backside of Snow Lake Dam. Once I was on top, I crossed over to get to the campground. That looked like a heron, but I've never seen one so far from the ocean. The campground had all the amenities, but no people. While I was setting up my tent, I heard a stampede. I looked to the lake just in time to see a herd of elk crashing into the water. A young one downright frolicked. I went to bed with a view of the lake while the sun was still up. I got up with the sun. The lake was a hive of activity. While I slept, a man drove in with the contractor's truck. And Iron, another CDT hiker, must have hiked in too. I spoke to Iron. He's Italian. He has a 180-day visa. He had already hiked the AZT before starting the CDT and was going to do them both in the same visa. I could tell the lake was low, but I didn't realize how low until I passed the boat ramp. The day was mostly dirt road walking after a morning climb over the hills. The hill was tough because there was no real trail. When I was lucky, I could follow trodden cow paths. At the top, I took a well-earned rest. On top, I found myself in a vast grazing expanse. Do you think it was a coincidence that right after I saw this guy, I saw a tarantula hawk? As I approached these three, I scared them from the shade of a single tree. Don't worry, not long after I passed, they got back under. Around noon, storm clouds started to appear. I had lunch at a water cache, and I followed Bursum Road for most of the day. But the sprinkling was threatening to become real rain. Just about 2, I was forced to put on my frog togs for the first time on the CDT. Note the precipitation chance was 0. This massive cow trough was filled by a solar well. These signs litter the entire Gila River Alternate. The burn I'd been traveling through happened in the same year that the boys' troop couldn't go to Philmont because of the New Mexico fires. Bursum Road is a very straight road. I followed the road up to a climb of 8,400 feet where I set up my camp right next to the road. It was my second 25-mile day of the trail. Note, my Garmin also said it was only get down to 38 degrees, but my tent was covered with frost in the morning. Had a slow morning. My first stop was to have breakfast next to a spring. The spring came up right through a culvert-like pipe. Where I rejoined the CDT from the Gila River Alternate, 2 star-crossed cows were separated by a cattle guard.
I'm back. Back on the CDT track.
As if to confirm I was on the CDT, I saw the largest rock cairn yet. I'd say so. At a high spot with a good view towards Pie Town, I got a signal finally. I talked to Julie for the first time since Doc Campbell's. I only had 2 bars of LTE, but I thought I'd try uploading the video that took 8 hours to upload, 54% at the RV park. I had a leisurely hour-long lunch and the upload was done. After a slow morning, I tried to make up for it, but I had a long dry stretch coming up, so I filled up for the first time at a cow pond. I've talked about cameling up before, but I really did it here. I downed a liter before filtering 3 and balled up another 1.5 liters of dirty water so I could filter it later if I needed. When I was done, the water was just dribbling out my filter. The pond had ruined my filter. I should have pre-filtered with some cloth. I really didn't think it was that bad though. Near this old cabin, now used to store cattle feed, I met Roadrunner. She's going for a Triple Crown. She's got a YouTube channel you can check out and maybe subscribe. You're not the type of person who'd watch somebody's videos and not subscribe, are you? We hiked the Govina Canyon Alternate together. She set up camp on the top, but I kept going until dark to try to get 20 full miles. In the morning, I had a 6-mile walk to State Route 12 where there might be a water cache, but if I went out of my way, I could visit another solar well. When I got there, the pump was running and I could get water straight from the well. I tossed out my unfiltered pond water for the well water. The well water was clearer than the filtered pond water. The storage tank was pretty clear too. I suppose it had something to do with the goldfish.
You spend £2 a month on worming powder.
What, you want a horse with worms?
Horses get worms from the water trough. Put goldfish in them. I eat the worm eggs.
Goldfish? It'll be a gypsy thing, is it?
No. It's an accounting thing.
At State Route 12 was only a gallon and a half of water. I couldn't take any with a clear conscience. Roadrunner was trying to catch a ride to Reserve, a trail town about 28 miles away. At State Route 12, I took the Pie Town Road Walk alternate because it had reliable water 10 miles away at a campground. I had a late lunch at the campground before hitting the water cache maintained by a ranger who mans the fire lookout on top of Mangus Mountain. Thanks, Patrick. Speaking of Mangus Mountain, I had to climb it. Just 3.7 miles, but a 1,500-foot climb up to 9,600 feet. It was a tough climb and it was getting late, but I had to stop because I finally got signal. I called Julie. I didn't want to sleep at 9,600 feet if I could avoid it. Too cold. I started down the hill, but right away, suddenly something was wrong with my foot. I got down to 8,800 feet before pitching my tent at a crappy spot next to the road. It was a 23-mile day. When I got up, my plan was to hike to 23 miles to Pie Town, but a blister under a blister under a blister on my right foot was killing me. I had another leisurely start, making coffee for the first time. I started walking. I tried to walk normally, but unconsciously I must have been doing something wrong because of the blister. I was having pains in random spots all along the right leg. Not far from Davila Ranch, I came upon a spigot. I didn't need water, but I cleaned up my foot to have a better look. Unfortunately, I didn't have any additional insights. I also used the water to cool down and to flush my filter again. The flushing didn't help. The filter still was ruined. Instead of sticking to my plan, I ended a 10-mile day at Davila Ranch CDT rest facility. What a great place. I met John, who came by twice to check on things. Besides that, I had the place to myself. 5 CDT hikers came by the day before, and according to the log, Iron, Margarita, Cisco were among them. Taser had been there too. She's the fastest of our shuttle crew by far, 6 days ahead of me. Speaking of the shuttle crew, I got word from Almighty. He's done. He's heading back to Quebec. Bon voyage, mon ami. Did I say that right? While John was visiting the rest facility, I asked about the relics out back. He said they were from the original settlers during the Dust Bowl era. He went on to say that the people that stayed in Oklahoma, Arkansas, or whatever, and stuck it out, they did pretty well. Many of the people who kept migrating all the way to California became millionaires. The settlers that stopped here in New Mexico didn't fare as well. I showered and did my laundry. I even made potatoes and eggs that my dad would be proud of for dinner before settling down in my tent out back. I went to bed at 6 with hopes that my foot would be better by morning so I could do the 13 miles to Pie Town for a resupply and another 0 or 2. I got up at 8. You'd think I'd been able to get up earlier, having access to a restroom and a place to change, but it was still hard getting up when it's so cold. Sure, it's desert, but it's still at 8,000 feet. I met a very sociable jackrabbit pretty early on. The road to town was good quality, straight, but did have some hills. I had signal the whole way, so I called Julie and talked a long time while I walked. The miles slip by when you have a pleasant conversation. After the call, I had 4 miles to go. Right from the edge of town, I could tell it was an eclectic community. I was taking a picture of a really cool house when I realized it was Toaster House, the hostel where I was staying. I'm sharing the house with Richard, a guy who was walking across America with his dog, and Iron from Snow Lake. Toaster House has been a hostel since the 70s. The owners passed away, but their children are keeping up the tradition. I dumped my ag and went up to the gathering place to get my resupply box, lunch, and of course, some pie. Snake count, still 1. It's really about building anticipation at this point. Trail stop checklist. Pie Town. Check.